Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you.
Do you need some water, ma'am?
Yes, please.
Okay. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. State.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Shomaker, I want you to state your name for the record, please, okay?
Taylor Morgan Shomaker.
And would you spell your last name, please?
Shomaker.
And do you have any children?
Yes.
And how old is your oldest?
6.
And how old is your youngest?
2.
And I'm going to ask you to try and remember a time that's a little over 4 years ago in July of 2015 and then maybe August of 2015. So I just want you to take a deep breath, right? At that time, were you living with Jimmy Ray Rodgers?
Yes.
And did you also know a Curtis Wainwright, or Wainwright as you might call him?
Yes.
And did there come a time, the very end of July, when Mr. Rodgers went to Florida?
Yes.
And who picked him up to go to Florida?
Curtis.
Okay. And did he come back a few days later?
Yes.
And had you gone over to your mom's while he was gone to stay with her, with the kids and you?
Yes.
Sir, I'm going to object to leading the witness.
Overruled.
And did he come and pick you up from your staying with your mom's when he came back?
Yes.
Do you remember what he was wearing when he came back? What kind of shirt he was wearing?
Budweiser t-shirt.
Was that a shirt that he had had before he went to Florida?
No.
And after he picked you up, did you go back to where the two of you lived?
Yes.
And when you went back, had he brought anything back with him?
Yes.
Now, when you walked into your house in the kitchen, did you see what he had brought back?
Yeah. Yes.
Let me just show you what's already in evidence, if I may approach the witness, Your Honor.
You may. Just let counsel know which exhibit you're using.
I am going to. I was trying to pull it. I'm going to use 35C. Show you what's in evidence is 35C. Was this your residence? Is this where you lived?
Yes.
And does this show the kitchen area on it?
Yes.
And can you just point right now to where the kitchen area is on this photo? And was that the area where you saw the items when you came back into the house?
Yes.
Was there, or did you see a white cooler or a black backpack on in the kitchen when you came back?
Yes.
Again, I'm going to object to this continually leading the witness.
I'll sustain the objection on that one. The previous questions, though, don't beg an answer. It's a yes or no question, which doesn't make it leading.
I want to show you what's been introduced into evidence as State's Exhibit number 40 and State's Exhibit 52. Starting with State's Exhibit number 40. State's Exhibit number 40. Do you recognize it?
Yeah, that was my ex's.
Was that Mr. Rodgers?
At the time, yeah.
That's what I meant. And when you talked about there was a cooler on the counter when you came in, was this the cooler?
Yes.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, the state would like to open State's Exhibit number 52.
You may.
Do you recognize this?
Yes. Yes.
What is this?
My backpack.
I'm sorry, I can't hear the witness.
Ma'am,
My
I'll have to
backpack.
I'll ask that you speak up if you can.
Okay.
And was this also, where was this when you came home with Mr. Rodgers that day?
In the kitchen.
Did you look in the white cooler at some point while it was sitting in the kitchen? Did you look inside it?
Not that I remember.
And was there anything in the backpack that was in the kitchen?
Yes.
What was in the backpack?
I don't remember right now.
Do you, give me just a moment, Your Honor.
I believe it was his clothes.
Did you end up talking to police and giving them a statement back in August of 2015, August 25th?
Yes.
And if I were to show you a page from the statement you gave, might it refresh your recollection as to what might have been contained in the backpack?
Yes.
Do you think it might also refresh your recollection as to whether there was anything in the cooler?
Yes.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Page?
It's page 5307, discovery, but page 11 of the statement.
Okay.
You can look at it and take your time. Just read it to yourself, okay? Did that refresh your recollection, Taylor?
Yeah. Yes.
So, did it refresh it both as to, well, let's start. Did it refresh it as to what was in the white cooler?
Yes.
What was in the white cooler?
The box of gloves, the ball peen hammer, and the dress shoes that he wore.
And what was in the backpack, the black backpack?
The rolled up jumpsuit.
Did he also bring any presents back?
Yeah.
I want to show you what's been introduced into evidence as State's Exhibit number 50 and ask if you recognize it. Do you recognize it?
Yes.
And what was that?
It was
What
a
is that?
gift he brought back for me.
The day he came back, was that a special day for you and for him?
Yes.
And did you have special information to share with him?
Yes.
What was that information?
That I was pregnant.
And did you tell him that on that day?
Yes.
Now, I want to move forward a little bit. I want to move forward to maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, in July, when 2 detectives Down and Levitt, came by where you lived, and knocked on your door. Do you understand that? You okay? And knocked on your door. Do you remember that day?
Yes.
And when they knocked, was Mr. Rodgers at home at that time, or did he come later?
He came later.
And when were they there very long? The officers?
I'm sorry, can you start over?
I'm sorry. That day in July, 2 or 3 weeks later, when detectives Down and Levitt came knocking on your door, and Mr. Rodgers wasn't there initially, did Mr. Rodgers arrive while detectives Down and Detective Levitt were still there?
Yes.
And did he speak with them?
Yes.
Now, after the detectives left, can you tell me what happened and what Mr. Rodgers said to you?
He said that we needed to take a ride.
And did he do anything before you got in the car to take a ride?
He took the detective's card off of the counter and did something with it.
And did you know where you were going to be taking a ride when he said that?
No.
Where did you end up going?
First we went down to his work in Doe Run.
And what did you all do in Doe Run?
I sat in the car and he went in and got his phone and put under a water fountain and then crushed it and then got back in the car.
And did he have the pieces of the phone with him when he got back in the car?
Yes.
And then where did you all go?
Headed back towards home.
And while you were heading back, did Mr. Rodgers either request you to do something or do anything with the parts of the phone?
Yes.
And what was that?
To throw him out the window.
And were the phone pieces thrown out the window?
Yes.
Did you all end up taking another car trip later, maybe going to your mother's or another that day or a couple days later, where you took what was in the black backpack? That
was the same day.
And that day, what did you do with what was in the black backpack?
He had told me to throw it out the window into the river on 47, but I was like in shock and my response delayed, and I threw it out a little after the bridge.
I want to show you what's been introduced into evidence as gloves.
We have gloves up on the witness stand, yes, I believe.
I want to show you State's Exhibit 51 and ask if you can identify it. And if I might ask the bailiff to hold the box for me while
Sure.
I'm doing this, Your Honor. Thank you very much. I'm showing you State's Exhibit 51. Do you recognize it?
Yes,
And what is that?
it's his jumpsuit.
Is that the jumpsuit you threw out the window that day?
Yes.
Thank you. After this, did you end up having a conversation with Mr. Rodgers when you were in bed?
Yes.
And would you tell us what that conversation was?
I pretty much initiated it. I was pretty much just like, I knew that you had something to do with this, and, I'm sorry. I remember me bringing it up, saying that I knew that he had something to do with it, and he agreed with me.